There is one issue that all waterfront buyers and sellers and homeowners need to deal with, and unfortunately, it happens for everybody at some point, but that is erosion control. It's something, unless you're knowledgeable about the topic, you may not even have ever thought of. You might want that big house with that big view, but erosion control, it doesn't have to be scary, but it does have to be dealt with, so it's really important. There are over 6,000 miles of shoreline in the Chesapeake Bay and its tributaries. And a little known fact, about 4,500 of those miles of shoreline are eroding. And so what can be done about it? Well, there's different things that can be done, but something definitely has to be done. Well, first of all, let's talk about what the effects of erosion can have. There's the obvious effects, which are threatening the stability of the structures that are on the shoreline. But there are some other things that you may not have thought about. Some of the sediment coming off of the property can smother the water, the plant life, aquatic and marine life. It can also cause fill-in that threatens navigable channels for both commercial and recreational boat traffic. So there's lots of things that you maybe never even thought of when it came to erosion. Everybody usually just thinks of, we don't want the house to fall into the water. So how can you get ahead of this and figure out what to do? So to determine if you have an issue, first ask yourself these questions. Do you have noticeable erosion over the past 2 years? If you have marsh on your property, is it disappearing? Do you have to step down to walk along the beach if you have a beach? Are the trees on your shoreline falling into the water? And if you do have a beach, is it submerged at high tide? And lastly, have any of your neighbors recently installed erosion controls? And you're on that same shoreline. So if they're doing things to control the situation, chances are you probably need to as well. So we obviously have excellent resources and great contractors to recommend, but you can also contact the Maryland Department of the Environment for information on contractors that they recommend and information on possible funding for the project. Now, you will need federal permits, and those are issued through the Army Corps of Engineers. And if you have questions on how all of that process works, obviously we can help with that too. So now let's talk about the types of shoreline revetment, because a lot of people just know bulkheads, or they call everything a bulkhead, and they don't realize that there are several different types. So there are living shorelines, are the ones that are going to actually build a marshland, or what they call beach nourishment, where they're going to try and build up the beaches and create marshlands. And those are optimal if you have the right conditions for that. Then there are what we call riprap. You'll often hear it referred to as riprap, but that is a stone revetment. And they are really good at controlling wave action, the velocity and the energy of the wave action, while also keeping the soil in place underneath. And then we have, of course, the bulkheads. Those are out there, but they're the least desirable in the three options. And a lot of people go for option 4, which is some sort of combination of two of the other ones. So what you're going to see most often is that somebody has a stone revetment, and then closer in there has been some sort of a marsh creation or a beach nourishment, a buildup of the beach. So those are usually the combos that we see that are the most effective and the most desired for their effectiveness, but also for their impacts on the environment. Because one thing people don't realize about bulkheads is they can actually erode their timber, but they also have chemicals a lot of times from being pressure treated, and they will seep into the waters. So they're really discouraged here in Maryland. So that's an important thing to know. So that's a lot of information that can really be discussed in further detail with the engineers and the professionals. It's just an overview. But where do you get started? So you should start by contacting the Title Division of the Maryland Department of the Environment, and make sure when you're gonna get ready to do this plan that you inform your neighbors, because that is actually part of the permitting process, that you inform your neighbors of your plans. When you go to submit your application, be sure you have really good photos of all of the sides of the project, and make sure whoever does draft your plans puts very clear and very concise plans. I can't stress enough how important it is that the contractors you choose to work with for this project, they have to know what they're doing. And your realtor should definitely know what they're doing, because hey, When it comes to waterfront, who you work with really does matter.